The Irish Comics panel. My name is Ciaran Marcantonio and I'm the managing editor of Lightning Strike Comics. To my right is Dave Hendrick, writer of Grania Well, Queen of Storms.
Or Grania Well, Queen of Storms.
I always do that wrong, don't I?
Yeah. It's okay, don't worry about it.
Next to him is the amazingly colourful, magical
Unicorn.
Unicorn,
Unicorn princess.
Colourist supreme. And lovely person, and quite happy a lot of the time. It's infectious. And next to Ruth is Sarah Bowie of the Comics Lab. Happy to see her because Ruth's headpiece is ginormous.
I'm sorry, I sit back. Yes, hi.
And next to that is some guy who just decided to crash the panel, otherwise known as Mr. Declan Shell.
Some guy. Hello.
Legend. So welcome. My voice, as you can probably tell, is nearly gone, so I'm going to leave a lot of the talking to you guys.
Thanks.
Dave, tell us about your book and what you're doing, right now, and how you feel about comics in this country and where we are and what we're doing. And that's all my questions in one go, and now I can be quiet for 45 minutes. See you later.
Right, so my answer will be in 4 parts. I wrote this, as Ciaran so kindly said in the introduction, which is, most of you probably know about it because I've been sitting down the end there for the weekend, but it's very, very quickly, it's the story of Grania Well, who was an Irish clan chieftain who held the English back from the west coast of Ireland for the duration of her life. And it's a pretty good story if you like pirates and kick-ass ladies. And what was the other part of the question? Sorry, what else am I doing?
I've forgotten already.
Yeah. So that was released in February. Luca Pizzari is the artist. He is phenomenal. I don't know how familiar you guys are with his work.
Currently working on Red Skull.
He's just come off Red Skull, and he's now working on the Black Knight series with Frank Thierry for Marvel, so they're rebooting Black Knight, and I think the concept sketches have come out recently on CBR, and they look amazing, and Luca just makes writers look 10 times better than they actually are. In my case, 1,000 times better than they actually are. And then D. Kniff coloured the book and did a masterful job. I think it's the first book he's done from start to finish. D usually works as a flatter. He's kind of graduated onto kind of full-time colourist on a few books. Yeah, so he flats Wicked and the Vine. I suppose that'd be the biggest.
Got his first full colour credit on that one as well this week.
Yeah, and he did an amazing job, and then my mate Pete lettered it, and yeah, he's grand. And so now I'm working on a couple of pitches. Really, I'm just pitching around town at the moment, trying to throw things at the wall, see if it sticks. And I'm working on like a corporate book right now, which actually sprang out of this. Really so yeah, well, it's a book. It's a line of books under this company name called MediKids, and it explains various different medical conditions that children may have to children, and how to deal with them. So when I'm not writing about pirates or spacemen or whatever it is I'm writing about leukemia and childhood HIV and stuff like that. So
That's where you wish you turned.
it is a bit of a strange one, yeah. But it pays the bills, and it's rewarding work. But it's heavy, man. I've got like 5 doctors sending me their notes on how to deal with different things, and then I have to make it kind of pleasant, amongst this. There's a super team of kids who deal with this stuff. So I'm working on that at the moment. Hopefully, none of you will ever have to see it. Because it's distributed to kids when they're in hospital, so fingers crossed. You'll never have to come across that, but it's fun. I got the gig out of this, so this is just like a lot of people are interested in how you get jobs and stuff. So I got this job because really from going to shows and networking with people and stuff like that, and met a few people who were into doing the same thing, and that kind of snowballed into, well, if they knew that I could write stuff, and if there's ever anything, they kind of thought of me or would think of me. And then along the way at the Dice show in Dublin, this guy down the end here, he introduced me to Luca a couple of years back and said, you guys should do something, and we did. And this is it. So then this kind of has led to other gigs.
O'Brien Press, right?
This is our
Yeah.
broadcast.
So one of the few that they have had lines of graphic novels before. They have had graphs before.
I wouldn't say lines of graphs, but
Well,
yeah, they do. They do. Like they're a book publisher, you know,
Yeah.
so they're dipping their toe in the water every so often with the occasional graphs. So they mainly history based.
Mm.
Yep, I'm doing a picture.
So that's kind of me. I'm talking for too long. So Ruth, all those questions for you.
Oh, same above. What?
Yeah.
You are meant to be on the spot, John. Come on.
I was getting a sandwich.
It's okay.
And look at it.
It's worth waiting for.
That was
Yeah, that's
it's a
yummy.
magnificent specimen of a sandwich.
Yeah.
Christ.
White bread.
John McRae, everybody.
Hi there. Is Paul not around?
PJ, he said we thought he was with you. That's the song.
He was off.
Disappeared.
He was off getting
Do I
meat.
need to wrangle PJ?
If he wants to come, this is where we are.
He's meant to be getting some meat. So
If he comes to top us, it's not my fault.
That was on the last night. That was one time. So, Ruth, hello.
Hi.
How are you doing? What are you
I'm
working
good.
on? Tell us what you're up to.
Right now I'm working on. I recently finished up on Deadpool Secret Wars, and I'm going to be doing the last issue of Deadpool versus Thanos soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a whole lot because I'm also going back to college. So.
I know. Young Ruth. It's amazing, isn't it? Christ.
But yeah, so it's like I've just been like doing Deadpool stuff this summer, and I was doing Storm before the summer.
Cool. Cool.
That's just the question.
Let's just get chatting, I suppose. I mean, what do you guys like in Irish comics at the moment? Or what? I don't. We say Irish comics, but there aren't really very many truly, completely Irish comics. But what I like is seeing people from this country working on books outside of Ireland and getting out there in the world. And John, yourself, Declan, you two were two of the biggest guys out there doing stuff out in the mainstream.
I don't put on weight, man, but
Not really. I mean, big like a star, Declan. Like I'm worshipping you from the front.
I know.
a big
Like,
fan store.
when I was starting out, like John was, I was saying it to him last night. Like seeing somebody from the country making comics,
Yeah.
like in America, was a massive deal. And I've been doing that for the last few years, which is great. And you know, it's great. Like say Irish actors. You know, doing well in the Abbey is great, but if being huge films, it just helps the craft, it helps the industry. But like, I feel that we're kind of like doing that. Like we're working for other companies, doing what we like. But like Irish comics, there's not a lot of stuff just purely being made from the country that's finding like a
An
massive
audience,
audience. I think we, maybe Hound is probably
Hound is
one
one
of
of
the
the
best,
better
or
ones,
maybe Mooney's Half Past Danger, which is still published in America, but like it's fully made by an Irish guy and written and drawn, and it's out there. Oh God, no!
PJ.
Come on. You're not getting off that easy. I'm going to have to do this.
any room?
But I think that we need something Irish made, like a piece of work that's like quintessentially Irish to come out. Really, I always sound like I'm just like down.
You sound like you're really sleepy right now, Declan.
No, I think it helps to be critical. I think that we're all like there's loads of stuff we made from Ireland the last few years, and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
But like, I think we need to.
Stop.
No. Sorry.
We need to stop.
No, not stop. Just just really be
Stop making stuff.
really be self-critical and really like because it's not enough just to be Irish and do work, because you don't want like terrible work being published and everyone think that's Irish. You want to be really good, like
So, out of people working in Ireland, who do you think is really, really good right now? Who's ready?
Give us a list. Give us a list.
I will.
And who do you think is bad?
Yeah, give us that list first.
I think Sarah's excellent. I think Sarah's one of the more interesting people to kind of come out in the last few years. Nathan Stockman, at Image, his stuff's really good. Dave's Grania books. It's nice seeing writers coming up with bodies of work. It's tougher to manage, but it's great to see. Well, it's really good. There's a few now, in fairness. It's easier to say who I hate.
Yeah. And Phil.
They sang
Phil's
to the
stuff is
table.
amazing. Deck. Phil's stuff is amazing.
Phil's
Yeah.
Phil's probably the best artist in the country.
Mind-blowing,
I think.
yeah.
I think he's the best storyteller, amazing cartoonist. And he's the best kept secret, but I wish he wasn't.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't understand why everyone does.
He was here yesterday.
Well kept
Yeah, he was off to Dublin today. He's brilliant.
What's he doing?
He does his own zines basically. Like he's been doing his own like self-published books for years. He lived in Canada for years. I think he knew.
You said
all the
Phil.
Canadians.
Did you say Phil Barrett earlier?
Phil Barrett. Yeah.
It's just people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Phil.
Yeah. Phil Barrett. Yeah.
This is maybe why he's a well kept
Has
secret. Because
anybody
nobody's mentioned
has
his
anybody in
surname
the
ever.
audience ever heard of Phil Barrett? Has anybody actually survived?
Oh,
That's a pretty well kept secret,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean, I've never heard of the guy.
No, I mean, I'd say you love his stuff.
He's
All right.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. He just draws Irish things that look Irish. You know, like a bus.
Leprechauns.
No, but like if you
Well,
drew,
talking about where's
if you draw a bus stop, like when he
Sure.
draws, you're like there's like a charm in the lines. Like I know exactly what that is. You know.
Sure.
He has a great sense of atmosphere. I think. He
Yeah,
really
yeah.
captures the atmosphere of it. Yeah. And very simply, he's a really simple man. So, yeah, it's just lovely.
Is there any of us? Can you pick some of his stuff up at this show?
I don't know. No, he was here yesterday. He's not here. He's not here today.
All right.
Yeah.
We should have had this panel yesterday.
We really should have had this
Yeah, that would have helped. Certainly Phil.
Yeah.
He's not a hot new he's not a hot new thing. He's an attractive man, but
He's
he's
here.
It's really nice.
Drooling.
He's been around for years, like doing great. He does. Ruth, he wants to do his storytelling.
Course, didn't you?
Yeah, so Sarah. Yeah, it was
Right,
amazing.
okay.
He did like a course on like comics and stuff in a college near me, like a adult education college, and so it was an evening course. And it was really good, and like he's done like some books that you can like buy easily, like where's
Yeah, you can buy his In Bits collection
in
on.
Bits, Where's Larry?
Yeah.
a few
Yeah,
other
Where's
things.
Larry? He did a great, like, basically it's a Where's Wally book, but it's like a leprechaun.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant. If you
It's
see
great.
it, man, it's hilarious.
Essentially Irish.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, possibly.
Is
so.
that's O'Brien, is it?
It is O'Brien's,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
O'Brien as well, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
He's not one of those guys who is awesome, but kind of can't make it into the big time because he just can't. He freezes when it comes to
No,
the big
no.
stuff, or is it just because he's never really
art
wanted
style.
it?
He's just so relaxed. He'll come in,
Right.
discuss things. Lovely fella.
Okay.
Grand, and just tip away in his own stuff. Like it's
Okay.
not like he doesn't want to do Marvel. He just wants to do his own stuff. You know.
He's an
That's
author
brilliant.
illustrator. Like
Yeah.
for me, Phil Barrett, and you could say Paddy Lynch as well. They've kind of for the last few years, and I've kind of come into the scene within the last year, but for the last few years, they've been the sort of the kind of inspiration for me in that they're author illustrators. They're coming from a very indie perspective. Leaving to one side all the connotations that indie brings, because a lot of the time indie is associated with people stapling together little grotty things in their basement, and that's fine too, but what they do is extremely skilled. And what Phil is in particular is an extremely skilled storyteller, and he is a rare specimen. He's absolutely a rare specimen in this country, and someone who should be championed a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we just did.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just think this is the Phil panel.
Yeah.
The Phil appreciation panel.
To have some
Club.
friends.
There you go.
Sarah, I'd like to know a bit more about the Comics Lab. Unfortunately, I had a panel at the same time as your one yesterday, which meant yet again I had to miss the Comics Lab.
Fine.
But
I'm totally against you.
I think you're doing great work with that.
Thank
Tell
you.
people about it. I think it's
Okay.
helpful.
The Comics Lab is something that myself, Debbie Jenkinson, who also has a stand outside, and Paddy Lynch got together and set up about 5 months ago. And the reason is, while we have all these great guys and girls who are working like with big industry sort of companies like 2000 AD and Marvel and all the rest of it, and it's brilliant, I feel there is a parallel world that isn't quite serviced in this country yet. You see it, in Canada and in the States, and you see it, obviously it's so well established in Europe, and it's really coming into its own in the UK in the last couple of years, but it hasn't quite happened here yet, and that is author illustrated stories. So where you have your own unique vision, you have your own story to tell, you're not following a canon of this is how you draw a person, this is how you draw, like you make up your own visual language, you tell your story whatever way you want to tell it. And not enough people seem to be taking risks or seem to be giving that a go in this country. People either feel they have to be pigeonholed into this is the canon of Western comics and this is the canon that I must fit into if I want to do comics. And it's like, what you had for breakfast this morning, that could be a fucking brilliant story if you're a good storyteller. So we really just wanted to encourage, and we specifically targeted the Comics Lab to people who don't read comics and who don't know a hell of a lot about comics, to get over this barrier that oh, if I want to do comics, it means I have to read everything that Marvel ever did or everything that 2008. No. If you want to tell stories, if you're a storyteller, then comics are a really, really valid medium for telling your story. It doesn't just have to be prose, it doesn't just have to be poetry, it doesn't have to be podcasting, it can actually be comics. So each month we meet once a month and we do sort of like a mix of little workshop-y exercises just to loosen people up and get them used to this sense of a visual language, using a visual language to communicate messages. And we get people who have already made comics to come in, share their process, or if they have a specific skill, to share their skill. Last month it was digital painting. But the most important thing is we sit around and we have a chat and we communicate with each other. And most recently we have put together this anthology, so we got our members to submit a page comic on the theme experiment. It could be as loosely interpreted as they wanted. We have loads of them out in the stand there, so do come out afterwards and have a look. It's a little snapshot, it's a little taster. It's very young. I mean, there's a lot of very young people in the comics lab. But it's a starting point, it's a seed that can grow. And I hope in a couple of years' time, we have a really thriving indie scene going on here. Like, really thriving. So,
Good work.
that's my say.
You guys got inspired. All right. No, but it's a good point. Like, there's not a lot of homegrown stuff that's about like Ireland or from Irish people. It's a lot of us working like for industry stuff, which is great. It's all I've ever wanted to do. But like, it is, you know, like everyone in Ireland is probably more aware of comics now, but it's just because of superhero movies. That's true, and that's not the medium. It's just a, you know,
It's a
like,
genre within the medium.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people get confused about that. They think that genre is the medium.
Yeah.
And it's totally valid, and this isn't me. I don't want to do the pretentious snobbish thing, oh, superheroes.
No, I'll
that's
do that.
for-"
I'll do that.
it's so totally valid, but it saddens me that people don't realise all the amazing European comics artists there are out there, and the kind of stories they're telling. And they kind of just open your mind up to the way you can tell stories. That's it, I'm going to...
I think something like the comics lab is really, really important. I mean, if you, like Deck, if you were to, or John, if you were to cast your mind back to, or kind of go back maybe 15, 20 years ago, when we were starting 40 years ago in PJ's. You know, if you had that kind of resource, you know, of just a bunch of like-minded people who, you know, wanted to get their stuff out there or find a starting point as to what to do.
Well, I think culturally we're not really taught that you can do that. You have to be given permission, you know. Like I went to a show in Belfast years ago and I met PJ, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you'll do comics." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Well, you're already doing them. It's just a matter of timing and luck." But even in that, like, was like permission for me. So I felt like that's when I felt like I could do it.
You can stop them now, though.
Okay,
yeah, enough.
But it is, I think we're not really raised to push ourselves or think that we can do things like, oh, that's for like other people, or they do that in America, or they do that in Europe, and
go and get a proper job.
Exactly, which is, you know, like those jobs that we're taught to have, you know, younger, like at a bank, those jobs just aren't there anymore. Like culturally, you know, we don't get a job for life anymore.
No.
So something like an artistic endeavor like that it's actually completely feasible. Just we're not really trained. So like I said, having some place where you can go and do it is amazing. Like, and I didn't have that growing up. Like I wish I had.
I was talking to Sarah yesterday and just saying if that sort of thing had been going on in Belfast, you know, when I was trying to break into comics or wanting, and it would have just introduced me to a lot of people, like-minded people, and there was just no way of connecting with those sort of people. Then there were no comics shops. Nothing, you know, so...
And you were scared, I mean, certainly when I was a kid, I was scared to move outside my social circle, just in case I got beat up.
Sure.
Just very safe if I stay within the social circle of me, just me really. And no one else.
I was going to make that joke. So
just circle one.
How do you guys feel? I mean, because like you said, John, you were at a comic shop and that was the only place, but like now there's like shows in Ireland.
I was very into the idea of lots of people getting into comics. But now I'm in comics, I don't want any more. Just that's enough.
Okay.
No, just me. No. I think it's great. And I kind of started. The permission I got was from John opening a comic shop and finding that there were people. I mean, you couldn't find two people that were into comics. And Northern Ireland in the 80s, 90s, really what you did have to be careful. People were scared to go and congregate together just in case you said the wrong thing or you were with the wrong person and you would get into trouble. But it's not quite like that now. But it's, you know, even the big shows that are all about the movies and stuff are kind of, they show that these things are made by someone. You know, even if, you know,
and they've always got the comic village or what have you tacked on at the side of
and
them.
something drawn.
You know, so there's people.
But then the
drawing
internet
it,
as well has opened that up as well. So it's
must
great.
love that. It means you don't have to actually interact with anybody.
Oh yeah, no, I do like that. As we all do, I hate people.
That's just you reflecting yourself.
Yes, it is. We're all going to have a drink now.
Yeah. Cheers.
Stopping for the ceremonial drink.
That really did. I mean, the internet really opened things up for comics, for the community, I found in the last few years.
Well, comics, I mean, for the sort of comics I do, it's so hard to do them on your own, because even writing and drawing, and then you've got to get them printed and photocopied, or you know, whatever method you're doing to put the thing together, they don't exist. I mean, to me, comics don't exist if there's only one copy of it. That's not comics. Comics are a shared experience. The reading of them, the producing of them, all of that is a shared experience. It only works if there are other people with you, and it's only whenever I find other people that you sort of propel yourself on there. I mean, people always go, "Oh, if you want to work in comics, it's a marathon, not a sprint," and that's true. But it's actually more of a relay race. You know, it's one person after another helping another one, and on and on. And so groups that sort of meet and get together and do stuff together is great. And like the first, I've met a lot of artists now that sort of, because of my age, I think I meet a lot of middle-aged men going, "I always wanted to do comics and I've never done anything." And you go, "Well, you just draw it, you just do it, you just pick a script and do it." But you need a script, and I've seen some guys with artwork where they don't really, they want to draw but they don't want to write, you know. And you're right, it is great that there are people that are that whole package and want to write and draw their own story, but there's a lot of people just want to draw, you know. They've always wanted to draw but they've never done anything, and they need to find writers or scripts and stuff. So
there is that rare gem though. I mean, I know Dave brought up Luca. When I first encountered Luca, he was submitting short 10-page stories to Lightning Strike, and they were whole jobs he'd done himself.
Who's Luca?
Pizzari.
Okay.
He had
not everyone knows surnames.
No. We brought him up already. But
okay.
When I first met him, he was just this machine of,
he still is.
He would draw ink, colour, letter, the whole lot, have the whole story in his head. Wouldn't never.
But they're unusual. There was a wee sort of Belfast group that got together, and I was quite cynical, because I really feel like Belfast especially is it's very hard for people to clump together that share the same, because we are scared of each other. You know, we're petrified. I don't know. It's a thing. But we had this little group, and people turned up. And there were people turning up and they'd gone, "I've been drawn, do you want to have a look at the comics I've done?" "Yeah, okay." Boom. And they'd sat in their room writing and drawing these comics. No one had ever seen them. They'd just sitting and writing and drawing on their own, you know. And yeah, it really needs, I think it's better when there's more people involved, and there does seem to be more, but it's hard when you're actually working in the industry. You spend all your time alone, so you don't see any of it happening. Sure. You know, that's when you need the social stuff is right at that start point.
And like you said, the internet has opened that up.
Oh,
Everybody can congregate now using Facebook.
Oh, we're all on
whatever.
Twitter.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder then, you know, at what point do you stop worrying about, you know, a Northern Ireland comic and just think of it as one big mass of people doing comics of different kinds, because, you know, there's quite a lot more in common than there is different.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think.
Although I do want a table just for the Northern Ireland artists.
Actually,
if we give you 1/6 of the table,
that'll do.
Yeah.
That'll do. As long as it's ours and we can march around here as much as we want.
I'll
get your bowler hat.
I'm genuinely curious, because I was because you know, like let's say Garrett and yourself were doing American comics, but you know, being from the south, and you know, it's like, you know, there was all the incidents in the north and whatnot. I know people identify differently, and I didn't want to say the troubles.
The difficulties.
The period of incidents will be different. But do you guys identify like as Irish creators or Northern creators? Like, it does. I don't think it matters.
I identify primarily as a Northern Irish comic creator.
Yeah.
You know, I was saying this last night to you on my Twitter profile, or any bio that I would write. because you end up writing a lot of bios about yourself if you're doing books and stuff. We'll always start with Northern Ireland-based comic artist or Belfast-based comic, because I think it's great for someone to stumble across a book and go, that guy's from where I'm from. You know?
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think that gives them permission to even that small thing might be enough for someone to go, well, I mean, they're facing all the same stuff I'm facing, and they're doing it. Why can I not be doing that?
Yeah, I usually put Belfast, but originally from Belfast or what have you.
But got out as quick as possible.
Oh, Christ.
I think the difference is because you guys being in the north had like the advantage of British industry, like say 2000 AD, and
I know.
that's how it seems.
I don't know. I mean, we still had. If we wanted to go to England, we still had to get in a boat or a plane or what. You know, there was still that water barrier was bigger than that border. You know.
But it was interesting though that like stuff like kicked up in the north first.
Yeah, and being a person from Belfast, like trying to get over to fly over to Birmingham or London, it was it could at that time.
Yeah.
I used to travel over to Fleetway when I was getting working, and I had a big cardboard tube that I used to put my artwork in and sling over my shoulder. Well, it was one of those ones that sort of opened like that, and I remember going into customs so many times, and the people just going, "What is this?" Where are you from? Yeah, here in the click. Yeah, exactly. It's just like it's just comics. So
I find it kind of interesting because being from the south and the biggest industry was in the UK. And you'd hear of this, British invasion of how all these, British writers and artists kicked off and became world famous. But,
I kind of look at the UK now, and I don't see that happening anymore.
It's like talking about the Beatles now. It's like, do you remember when the Beatles invaded America? That was amazing. Well, yes, but that was a long time ago, and it doesn't really count anymore.
But even in industry
we won the World Cup.
In industry terms, it was like some of the biggest names were in England. I think there's more of an explosion of talent in this island than at the moment.
Right, yeah.
Than anything that's happening in the UK now.
I always find when after I'd left Ireland, and then when I would come back, anytime I would go to anywhere to do a signing or something like that, the buzz in Belfast or Northern Ireland would be, and then when you go down south, there'd just be so much energy about comics.
Yeah.
You would find this a much bigger enthusiasm for the medium, and just people were really excited by it. And I always thought that the south had a bigger, they had just much more enthusiasm for the medium. I don't know if maybe that's just because Northern Irish people are just kind of
scared of large crowds.
Yeah, what do you say?
A bit ready to get out of the door. Just me.
Yeah. But I think.
Is it a bomb worm?
Yes. Hey, I'm in the middle of a panel. I'll just call you back in a tick. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
She
sends you best.
Well, I think
that guard?
I think there's a point.
He's got a lovely voice.
That was made kind of earlier. I think you made it earlier about this kind of validation thing that Irish people have. And I was talking to Paul Bolger earlier, and he was saying, there's been a great reception of Hound, but it's almost that he had to produce it. And then from like a mass media perspective, when he was trying to get coverage for the Kickstarter for Volume 2, when he sent press releases around Ireland, around different media outlets, it was the ones where he had attached images of the guys at Iron Man reading Volume 1 and the guys who work on Family Guy that he knows with a copy of Volume 1. When he sent those images out, the media outlets picked up. When it was just him and his book, they didn't. So it was almost that you have to,
That's the media for anything.
You've got to
They want sexy.
They
just want sexy stuff.
But it's nearly that you have to step outside of Ireland, get validation elsewhere. It is quite an Irish thing.
I had to go to the
and
UK
then come
to
back.
get anything published. I was a little resentful, to be honest, at the time. Not that I was brilliant or anything, but I said, why am I going to England, to do it when there's people in Ireland doing it? I knew there was some in Dublin. I didn't really know anyone at the time, but I remember I knew there was Freak Show, and it's like I could throw that. And you did. And I did. And then I was like, ha, knew I could do it. But, no, I mean it is. I don't think that comics are a medium that the media So Injection is going to come out October 7th. The trade's going to come out. And what I'd like to do is try and get on arts shows and cultural because like with Moon Knight was a big.
You want to talk to Will Sliney about all that stuff?
Well, no, I don't. Like, well,
Save
maybe,
it,
but like,
save
but
it
like,
off.
no,
Save it off.
no, but Will's
Fine.
been great at like getting stuff
Yeah.
out there, but like that's kind of like not what I want to do in regards of, like, I would prefer not just be on like the Late Late Show because it's not. I know that's a massive audience, in fairness, but like. People who think of comics think of it as just basically mass pulp.
You want to read it,
entertainment.
not Anton Savage. You know, that's where.
Well, not to put it down in any way, shape, or form. I just think that we get media coverage because we're linked to like superheroes, whatever.
Yeah.
But I would like to like have people who like discuss poetry and sculpture and plays and here's another medium where people are actually producing stuff in the country and it's just invisible to the
I
audience.
don't know necessarily if there are many people could email the Late Late Show and say, I've got a book of poetry coming out, can I come on your telly show?
That's true.
It may well be comics will never be a mass medium, and I'm okay with that. That's fine. That's all right. And, it might be they're never going to be movies.
That's my point. Is I don't necessarily want it to be a mass medium. I would like it to be recognised as a medium.
But
If it's 5 people
who
buy
needs to
it.
recognise that though? Does it
Who needs to give us validation?
Yeah, we don't.
But
I'm
like,
quite
the
happy.
thing is, like if you spread your vision beyond Ireland, and the thing is Ireland and Northern Ireland included, like we're a very, very small nation, we're an island nation, but that's not to say that small nations can't, like as in, say, Norway, if there's proper government funding and there's a recognition this is a medium and that funding is there, that can make things like injection and various sort of.
But
then, I don't know. I always
you're
think wouldn't it be nice if we were like the French market, where there are French books and French publishers, and there's no. I don't necessarily think there's any French government funding. That's just the French people realize. Okay, may well be wrong.
Yeah, but the French history, like the point that I had wanted to make, but what Declan was saying there really feeds into it, is we don't have a visual arts history in Ireland. That is just a fact. We have a literary history, we have a storytelling history, but we do not have a visual arts history. Yes, like we have Jack B. Yeats and we have Louis the Brocky and we have little sparks here and there, but there's no. But that's very, very valid. But we
It's an illustrated book.
This isn't me downplaying Ireland.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of anything that we've produced, but we don't have that legacy behind us. And in fact, if you think under like De Valera, etc., at one point art was banned from being taught in schools because art was seen as being an immodest influence on virtuous young souls.
Hopefully
so it wasn't
still
encouraged.
is.
If you look at a
I used to
country
try and
like
win comics
France,
at girls. It never did me any good.
yeah, if you
still
look
a
at a country like
virtuous young
France and their like visual history,
Yeah.
their respect for the arts, I mean, it goes back centuries. And comics really sort of first came to life in Belgium, but like they've got that behind them there. We're creating ours from dot, and I
Yeah.
think to be aware of that, and like the Comics Lab, part of our motivation for setting that up is when we get enough welly behind it, we're constantly talking to Dublin City Arts Council. We want to relocate the perception, shift the perception of what comics are.
I think it's doable. You just need to educate. It's just going to take a while.
time.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to happen tomorrow, but over the next couple of decades, like long-term vision here.
Yeah, because like absolutely, like kind of coming off of what you guys have been saying, like one thing that, like, okay, it's going to age me very clearly. When I did my leaving cert a few
You
years
should be the one worried about getting old on this panel.
when I did my leaving cert a few years ago, I remember being super frustrated with the fact that we did a lot of English texts and they were like emphasizing like you need to do poetry, you need to do prose, you need to do plays, you need to do films. I was like, why not comics as well?
Yeah.
And like I would love it if comics were also on the curriculum for the text-based stuff, where like you probably remember you had to compare texts, the comparative texts in the English exam, and they made you pick different media of text, so that was play, film, book. And I don't understand why comic can't be one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a medium. It's a
It is. It's a
yeah.
text medium.
Although the question I would have then is,
because if films and like plays
Not
can
gonna
be
be
counted as text,
Yeah.
then why can't a comic? Like, because they're both images
It's a
and
narrative.
words.
It's a narrative.
Yeah.
For its
the
medium.
question
Yeah.
I would ask then is, it's all well and good saying comics should be on that list of things you can pick from, but there are hundreds of great books, there are hundreds of great films, there are hundreds of but I mean, are there hundreds of great comics?
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Are there?
Look
I mean,
at
hundreds
Beyond
of
the
them.
Pool. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Okay.
You don't
like,
need
no,
that
there's a
many
whole
books on
curriculum
curriculum.
They don't
Well,
have
there's
the
the
Irish
Department of
text either in
Monstrology.
the-
Then it's
Yeah,
Department
that's
of
one.
Astrology
Yeah.
book 2, right? So that's 2 already.
Say, so we're nearly there.
Easy,
PJ.
number crunch, that's 3. Injection, we'll count that as well.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you
they
very
don't just
much.
have to be Irish.
Yeah, they
comics.
don't have to. In the English exam,
Yeah.
like we covered a novel written by an African woman, a text written by an Irish fella and then a movie written by an American, I think.
Yeah,
So
we
like
did
it's
To Kill a
definitely
Mockingbird in school, like, you
Yeah.
know.
across.
Cinematography, so and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's
But
like-
then you've got that depth of history with those media, apart from movies, obviously, but the depth of history with books that you don't have necessarily with comics, where comics you recognise as comics.
We also have a
60
massive
years.
storytelling culture. Like that's
Yeah.
that's kind
Yeah.
of our thing.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
just telling stories.
No,
And,
we,
like,
we don't.
Swear to God,
we
true
up
story.
north we don't.
Yeah, I realised when I said
Culturally,
king, I
we're
dropped the
different.
H there, so even more Irish. Like, but I'm not saying like that everything's going to change, but like the nice thing about saying how well I've done at Marvel and stuff is like, you know, people know what that Marvel
It
brand
makes
is, so I
everyone
can
else
get like
jealous.
on radio shows and people will actually listen because they know
Yeah.
what Marvel is, and you can slowly educate
Oh, yeah.
that. You know, I mean, it'll take time.
It's like
but-
when I tell someone I'm a comic artist, they start reaching for it. And what do you draw? And I have to start thinking of something they might know.
Oh yeah, sure. I know.
If I had Spider-Man, that'd be.
But the nice thing is, if it's not just
one.
one thing, if there is like, say, guys like Will at Marvel and Simi doing the creator-owned stuff and the Comics Lab, and as long as it's all moving forward, I mean, I think it's possible. It's not going to happen unless we actually
try and make it happen. So I mean, it'll move the dot a little bit, but I mean, otherwise we're just going to complain about it and nothing's going to happen at all.
Doesn't sound like an Irish thing. That.
What, complaining? Yeah. But that's exactly my point. We're more likely to just go like, oh, it's shocking. This is and just complain, but not actually doing it. Like in fairness, like Comics Lab is a pretty proactive thing. You're getting people who think the comics are something else.
That's hitting a market that hasn't been hit really.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I respect most about the Comics Lab is that they're actually getting new people into the scene.
And it's kind of what I find, like, it feels like a negative to say, like 6 months ago, there was nothing like that, and I was sitting around moaning about the fact that there's nothing for indie comics in this country. And now it's happening, because if you're the one complaining about it, get off your arse and do something about it. But the really exciting point about it is it hasn't happened here yet. This is our chance to make it happen, and happen in an Irish way. And I don't mean with shillelaghs and leprechauns. I don't mean by saying diddly I am freaking Irish. I mean just being authentic.
Couldn't
Just
hurt
being
though.
yourself. Not aping other cultures, just being yourself.
There's no one going in that book. Nor ladies.
But shillelaghs are good too, yeah.
They're handy.
We've got
Yeah.
a few minutes left. Anybody want to ask a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I've been listening avidly.
I'm sorry.
There's people here.
You're talking about a very exciting thing to me. You mentioned France, humanoids, metal overland, that sort of culture that's over there. Where comics are kind of independent of the American market, and that's also true of Japan, where you've got like a massive infusion of culture and comic book. There's comics for everyone over there. But you're talking about comics here and the Comics Lab, and that for me is massively exciting because
Cool. Yeah.
I grew up in Belfast at a time when it was almost pariah behaviour to be into comics during the era that I grew up in. So now it's become very commonly accepted. So you're talking about doing something. I watched the 2000 AD documentary recently, and Pat Mills said that 2000 AD was an anarchic punk reaction to the culture at the time, which was 1980s Thatcherism, and punk was coming, etc., etc. Are you going to roll with what's happening right now and maybe actually produce? I mean, the time for I don't think the anthology is by any means over. It's still running, and people still want to hear unique voices that aren't necessarily superheroics. I think superheroics has opened the door for the mainstream. But is this the time now to start rolling out that sort of material and making it accessible to an even broader audience and doing it here in Ireland?
Yeah, it's a different audience. Sometimes people sort of say to me, you're competing with Batman.
Yeah.
You have to get the money out of the pocket of the guy who's going to buy Batman. And I'm like, no. And you mentioned Japan there are so, in Europe too, there's so many different audiences.
Sure.
They're the people who would never read Batman, but they'd read something by Brecht Evans, which is a slice of life psychological drama thing. So it's creating, it's two things. You're creating the comics you want to create because they satisfy you,
Sure.
but it's creating a new audience as well. It's bringing people who mightn't necessarily buy Batman, but would actually buy that because they find it relatable.
But that also doesn't mean, it's because I would disagree with you slightly on that, because just because you're right, it is a different audience, but that doesn't mean one will do one will do the other, because I just like comics. I'll read pretty much anything if it's good. I think in the context of that argument, as you're competing with Batman, I think it's specifically the argument of shelf space for a consumer coming in to a comic book shop, and essentially your product is going to be in the way. I think it's a slightly different argument, which I'll agree on that. But I mean, you're right; it is a different audience. But like you know, there's crossover too. You know,
you're talking about the audience that doesn't go into comic shops.
Absolutely.
You're talking about the audience that goes into bookshops. And the one thing that annoys the living piss out of me when I go into a bookshop is all the graphic novels just being stored in one section. Like this entire massive medium is just a single genre which needs to be plopped there.
It's frustrating.
I know, and you want your crime fiction to be racked with all the crime fiction, you want your romance to be racked.
It would be annoying to go in there, it's like I can't find comics in this bookstore. What would be interesting is if comics are mixed in with the books and people are like looking for books, find a comic. Rather than being like off in the corner with all the
That said, coming back to comic shops, something like Gosh London, if like when you're to me, I would love something like that in Dublin. I'm sure you'd love something like that in Belfast, and I think that does it really democratically. You've got the stuff that caters for the Batmans and all that, and it's given proper free range. You've got the beautiful like Lowbrow, Breakdown Press, all the other publishers, and then you've got the really indie shelf, and it's stuff sent from all around the world, and it can be as lo-fi as you like, but that can be the most inspiring stuff because it might just trigger something in your brain.
But that's actually Gosh's amazing store, because you go to most comic shops and there's like all the stuff, and then there's like the indie stuff, but in Gosh it's all the indie stuff, and down in the basement is where all the industry stuff is. But like I think you'd be right. I think the time could be now, but unfortunately, as much as as excited as I'd be to do that, somebody needs to pay for that kind of infrastructure and distribution, and if you want to do it right, paying artists a proper wage. A lot of stuff comes to it, and as much as I think there actually is a talent pool that could prop it up, there's nobody. Like I say, O'Brien's Press is the closest, but they're a book publisher with a certain, like they'll make a certain amount of money on those books, hit the market that they're looking for. That's it.
They're conservative. They're catering to the tourist market.
Yeah, they know
they
their
always
market.
have an Irish theme. Sorry, in terms of publishing, no, we still have to look outside of this country, and I mean, well, I'm talking about Southern Ireland and the publishers there. And I am, like I'm very focused on Europe and abroad. And that's just the reality at this moment in time, because it's hard for publishers to cater to 3.5-4 million people and stay above water. That's not going to happen. But that doesn't mean we can't be developing this work and making this work and drawing attention to the...
Just to boost it what I said, I think what you're doing with Comics Labs is absolutely fantastic.
That's brilliant.
But it's also, it's integral right now. And I think, like John said, there's so many people who are finding a creative voice to do that, and just keep up the good work.
Well, if you're ever down in Dublin, it's every second Tuesday of the month.
I'll be speaking to you.
Do come down. Oh, you're speaking to Daddy, brilliant. Cool.
Jeez, the rest of us are good too, you know.
I was actually reading something of yours on the way. I was reading Injection on the way up on the train.
Good man.
Thinking this is rubbish.
When you're back.
Very esoteric. It's taking me a while.
If you're ever in Dublin, you can always drop into Deck's place.
Make it teas, No, but like I'd be like, and also you really sell Belfast, the lot of you. It's great to hear that, man. Because like as much as we would like to make the stuff, it's people need to be reading it, and there's no point to us. You know, the whole you were saying earlier on, it's like it's a communal thing. You don't want to just draw it and leave it on the shelf. The whole point to do is because you want someone to read it, whether they like it or dislike it. And I think it's just, you know, the audience isn't quite there, but I mean that can change. And
building your audience.
It would be a waste if all this stuff just went nowhere. I think it could, but if there was some like a Dennis O'Brien type who had lots of money, who was willing to like invest in it, they'd lose money because publishing right now, like you're saying, is tough. But I think something could be done, you know. But
it's a small market, so you're publishing for export.
Yeah, that's quite true. And as well, I think we also have an awful problem of like, you know, making stuff for like the people around you. Whereas today, your competition isn't like another book made in Dublin. It's a book made in Brazil or a book made in because if you read French stuff, you're reporting it. You want it to be a worldwide audience. So it could.
It's a global market.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it used to not be, but it is now. Like you know, the competition isn't your neighbour. It's like some amazing artist in America. You're like, that's such a competition is now. You know,
Croatians.
Yeah.
Those God, I hate them. Yeah, they're so good.
I
Any more questions before we finish up? Anybody? No. Okay.
We've covered
We're
everything.
We're just after 3 o'clock.
It's all sorted.
5 minutes over. We're good.
Nailed it.
Thanks, everybody.
We got a little passion there at the end.
I can hear the fiddle in the back. I can hear the baron starting. I smell the turf. You know?
American means you can hear the sounds of the cow.
That's where I can smell Semtex.
The sound of the bullet being fed into the magazine. Oh, that was great. God almighty. Thank you all. Oh, cheers, man. Oh, well, we can go that far. They were awesome. We kind of sat there going, we're all good. We're all good. I enjoyed it. Good. Where's the Dread panel?
That's Ask Wayne. He's running the Dread panel.